Last time, we left you standing in the hall where Egypt weighed the dead. Tonight, we go somewhere worse. There is a moment in Egyptian myth when humanity is nearly wiped off the earth, not by a flood, not by a war, but by a single goddess nobody could call off. She kills until the land runs red, and the god who sent her does not call her back. What finally saves us is not mercy, and it is not a battle. It is a trick, and the trick is beer. That is the story you have probably heard. And almost every version of it, including the ones at the top of your search results, compresses the most important part out of the very first sentence. It has to do with the name. Begin where the Egyptians began. Ra, the sun, the first king, has grown old. The texts are blunt about it in a way that later religions rarely are. Their supreme god ages. And humanity, seeing that the king is old, begins to plot against him. This is not a story about a wicked world drowning in sin. It is about something much more human and much more dangerous. Subjects who have worked out that their ruler is weak. Ra does what an aging king does when the ground shifts under him. He takes counsel, and then he sends out the one weapon that has never failed him. He sends his eye. Here is where the popular version goes sideways. Almost every retelling opens with the same sentence. Ra sent Sekhmet to destroy humanity. Now open the peer-reviewed encyclopedia entry devoted to this myth, written for the UCLA Encyclopedia of Egyptology, and read it end to end. The name Sekhmet is not in it, not once. I want to be precise about what that does and does not prove. That entry is a summary written by one Egyptologist. It does not tell us what the hieroglyphs themselves say, and nobody on this channel has read them. What it tells us is how a specialist chooses to name her when she summarizes this story. And what she writes is, his daughter Hathor, the fiery, protective sun-eye. Hathor. At Dendera, her own carved epithets call her Lady of Joy. She is the weapon, and Sekhmet is not a second goddess dispatched to do the ugly work. Sekhmet is what Hathor becomes when she starts killing. Elsewhere in that same encyclopedia, a different scholar writing about temple ritual does use the name, and look at how he writes it every time he touches this story. Not Sekhmet, but Hathor Sekhmet, hyphenated, one goddess, wearing two faces. This is not a god unleashing a monster he keeps in a cage. This is a father watching his daughter become one. And she is magnificent at it. The eye goes out into the world as a lioness, and the rebellion ends the way rebellions end when a god settles them personally. The Egyptologist Betsy Bryan describes her running up and down the Nile Valley eating people. Then comes the part of the story that has kept it alive for 3,000 years. The killing was supposed to be a punishment. A punishment has a stopping point. This does not. Ra looks down at what is happening to the people he made, and in the encyclopedia's careful phrasing, he feels pity and decides against continuing the massacre. But deciding it should end is not the same as knowing how to end it. She is being exactly what he made her. So Ra does not command her. Watch this closely, because it is the cleverest thing in the myth, and almost everyone misses it. He never revokes the order. He changes the props. He has beer brewed and mixed with red ochre until it looks like blood, and has it spread out across Egypt in the night. University College London's retelling describes a lake of it. Betsy Bryan describes the fields of the valley flooded with it. Morning comes, the goddess arrives, ready to finish what she started, and finds the whole world apparently already soaked in what she came for. So she drinks. And she drinks until she is too drunk to kill, and she goes home appeased. Humanity is not forgiven here. Humanity is not even consulted. It survives because a goddess was handed something red and did not look closely. And this is where the myth stops being only a story and starts touching something Egyptians actually did. Every year, in temples up and down the Nile, and we can trace this best in the Ptolemaic period, across more than 20 temples from the Delta down into Nubia, they held festivals of drunkenness. Ritual drunkenness was a real Egyptian practice. People drank to excess, deliberately, as a religious act, to reach a state where a god might be met. At Dendera, the goddess carries carved epithets that read like the festival's own vocabulary: Lady of Drunkenness, Lady of Joy. It is a satisfying connection. It is also, and I want to be honest with you here, an argued one. Two peer-reviewed articles published in the same year, 2010, come down differently. One links the pacified goddess directly to those festivals. The other went and read the actual beer-offering liturgies and found something unexpected. This myth does not appear to be alluded to in them. He does not say the connection is wrong. He says it is not necessary, and that the drunkenness may always have been about something broader, intoxication and renewal themselves. We do not know. That is allowed, and any version that hands you a clean answer here is tidier than the evidence. Because Sekhmet was never only a character in a story, she was a working power, and the Egyptians handled her the way you handle something genuinely dangerous. Her name means, roughly, the powerful one. She was goddess of war, of violent storms, and of pestilence. And here is the turn that makes her the most interesting deity in the Egyptian pantheon. Appeased, that same destroying power became healing. The goddess who sent the disease was the goddess you went to for the cure. Egyptian medical titles include a pure priest of Sekhmet, and University College London draws the line this way. He treated ailments with no immediately visible cause. Knife wounds went to a different title. Snake and scorpion bite to a third. And UCL adds a caution worth keeping. Because it is the honest part. It is not certain how rigidly those specialities were separated in practice. All three were healers working from the same manuals. Roman period manuscripts even record a priest of Sekhmet inspecting meat and livestock and guarding against contagion. Not a public health service, but not superstition either. And notice what that job actually is. If epidemic disease is a goddess loosing arrows at the turn of the year, then the man who treats it is not fighting her. He is negotiating. Which brings us to the strangest monument any Egyptian king ever raised. In the 14th century, before our era, Amenhotep III commissioned statues of Sekhmet in a quantity that still does not quite make sense. Around 600 of them can be traced today, seated and standing, cut in dark, hard stone, at his mortuary temple on the West Bank at Thebes and at the temple of Mut at Karnak. Rank after rank of the same lioness, staring at you. Scholars have argued convincingly that this was a litany in stone, a permanent, physical prayer to keep the goddess calm, repeated in granite so that it never stopped being said. Whether it went further than that is genuinely open. One theory ties it to epidemics moving through the Near East in his reign. Another suggests the statues were arranged as a kind of ritual calendar. What is not in question is the scale. You do not carve 600 of something that is not central to how you understand your own survival. And now, the ending you almost never hear, because the popular version stops at the beer. The composition does not close with humanity saved. It closes with humanity alone. Alongside the trick, the text carries another resolution to Ra's problem with us, and it is the one the retellings drop. The sun god simply decides to leave. He withdraws from the earth into a sky made for him in the form of the great celestial cow, and the gods go with him. We are left down here without them. The scholar who produced the standard edition of this text gave it a subtitle that says it perfectly: An Etiology of the Imperfect, a story explaining how things came to be flawed. That is what this myth is for. It is the Egyptians accounting, without flinching, for why the world is the way it is, why the gods are not standing in the road, why the sun crosses overhead every day instead of walking among us. We were not destroyed. We were left. And every temple they ever built after that was, in a sense, an attempt to get somebody's attention. Next time, we go looking for the god who stayed behind to keep the whole thing running. Until then, keep the stories alive.